All right.
And good morning.
Good morning.
So, before we get into the story today,
No Toter win?
not really.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, Joe's still the president.
Yeah, and
I guess there's some crackheads out there that are pretty happy.
it's Crack History Month. Oh man.
Speaking of Crack History Month, I hadn't even planned on talking about the new It'll Be All White documentary yet, but
Yeah, I might actually watch that just for the purposes of being able to.
I don't know how
later.
I don't know how we'd be able to watch it without getting a Showtime subscription, which I don't intend to do.
Oh, it's on Showtime?
Yeah.
I don't have a Showtime subscription either.
That's
Oh no.
I kind of wish I was subscribed to Showtime so I could cancel them. I mean,
Yeah, and apparently, there's boxes that were taken out of Mar-a-Lago. Are you tracking on this?
yeah, I almost brought that up. I almost started to talk about that yesterday. I'd like to see a little more I'd like to see a little more information on what went down there. Mm-hmm. I have a suspicion that the headlines are overblowing the activity a little bit because literally every president has gotten in trouble technically under the law after leaving office over not turning over all the documents because basically the archives decides, well, no, this thing that's totally clearly a personal letter from another person, it counts as an archive thing.
Okay, look, and it's not they don't get in trouble because clearly, we
Right.
say they get in trouble. That's the verbiage that you use, but let's not forget
They don't make a big deal out of it, but the archives has to go after every president once they get out and say, no, this thing, and this thing are actually ours.
But let's not forget that the commander-in-chief, one of the things that did frustrate me while Trump was president, at any point in time, he could have declassified certain things.
And he didn't.
And he didn't, okay? Because he's president.
He threatened to.
And I know. But I mean...
And that's not sufficient. I don't like threats. I like bullets.
But when you're the commander-in-chief, no. You have the security clearance.
Yes. All of them.
All of them. You don't have to ask anybody. People have to ask you. And just one other thing to toss it out there. Psaki said, well, hold on now. The free crack pipes thing has been exaggerated somewhat. Yes, we know.
This is the best fact check ever.
Yes. We know that we exaggerated the free crack pipe story, okay? We know we did. It's called comedy. There was a free crack pipe story to exaggerate in the first place, Saki. Like that's...
Oh, no, it's not that it was exaggerated. The fact check is, fact check mostly true. The safe smoking kits include a crack pipe and a meth pipe. The untrue part of the headlines is it's not just a crack pipe. There's also a meth pipe.
Oh,
They're two separate types of pipe. That's the Snopes fact check on this is, no, you're misleading people if you tell them that the $30 million is going to give free crack pipes to crackheads, because you're failing to mention that there are also meth pipes in that deal. Yeah, there's no exaggeration. It's straight up free crack pipes.
Okay.
Also syringes.
Okay. Again, sometimes... Fine, whatever.
So, this morning, and like I said, before we get into the story, funny, just little anecdote. You're familiar with The Quartering. Jeremy from The Quartering.
Yes.
Right? So, The Quartering has a chat, has a kind of fan chat set up through, I forget what it's called now. I just downloaded it this morning. But it's basically like, it's called Gilded. There it is. It's called Gilded. And it's basically like a, not Slack, like, what's that, Discord. It's basically like a Discord chat. So I popped in there this morning for a little bit and was just kind of, trolling around and playing and chit-chatting with some people. And somebody goes, hey, wait a minute. BFM, do you have a big white beard? I do. I know you. And, right, and it's it's a username, and I won't say the name here just for propriety. But hey, I know you. Like, really? How do you know me? It's like, oh, I stumbled on your show a couple of years ago. I've been watching to catch up on the back catalog for a while. I love the Firearms Friday shows. Like, yep, Firearms Friday. Yep, that's us. And it was one of those moments for me, like the first time I met DJ Scotty, Military Mike stood up to introduce us, and Scotty goes, oh yeah, I know him. He does the Brushfire Mine show. I was like, wow, getting recognized from this show it's a good feeling.
Alex from Polytech was actually the first one to do that to me. We were sitting in...
Yeah.
What was it? That bar that had the amazing burgers?
The 10 plate.
The 10 plate that's not there anymore. We're sitting in the 10 plate.
They moved. They didn't close.
Right. And sitting in the 10 plate eating a burger. So, well, it's the Brushfire Mine, isn't it?
Oh, shit. I wish he was watching right now. Because... Alex is a little less cockney than that.
A bit.
So, speaking of the first time you noticed something, let's get into some of the stories. And I was kind of fighting myself over whether to start with Governor missed it by this much, or
she's the future governor.
Of course she is.
She is. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.
I actually think that you would have been correct, but I think Vernon dropping out of the governor's race to run for Senate,
Congress, but
I'm sorry, you're right, but is going to change some of that. Is going to change some of that math. But we've got this picture: Stacey Abrams slammed for maskless pics surrounded by masked kids. And this is one of those things, man. You see all the teachers in the back are wearing masks. Everybody in the room is wearing masks, except for Governor Cornscraper here. So the Cornstriper is demonstrating something that we noticed early on and talked about. I think we talked about it on the show, but right after the pandemic started, like they announced it, and then I don't know, maybe 2 weeks later we went and did a wedding. And back then we were even talking on the show about, okay, look, we don't know anything yet, right? Remember, this is the beginning of 2020. We don't really know anything yet, but at that point we had been talking about the Wuhan incident since the previous like October or November. I won't say we broke the story, but we were early on reporting that there was something going on, something fishy's happening in China, and y'all need to be concerned. And even a couple of weeks before they just straight shut all the schools down, we had one of my 4 kids was actually in a kindergarten, and we were homeschooling the 2 older ones, and the baby's not in yet, but my son was in kindergarten. We pulled him out, and I said on the show, I said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and pull my kid out of school, because no matter what the facts are around this virus, I can tell you this: people are about to lose their mind, and everything's going to go absolutely unrecognizably crazy, and I'm not going to let my boy get tied up in that. We've been right on everything every time, and even when we talked about masks may be a good idea, we talked about the droplets and all that, and we don't know enough to not take precautions yet. Now we know more, right? We have more data, and that has changed some of our opinions and changed some of the mainstream opinions as well. But at this point in 2020 Valentine's, it was almost exactly 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years ago Monday. We went and shot a wedding. Mm-hmm. Huge wedding. And at that wedding, most of the guests were not wearing masks. But all of the vendors were. Right?
Except us.
Well, we were wearing masks through a lot of it.
I know the one you're talking about. We weren't wearing masks for that one. Every wedding since then we've had to wear.
No, I'm talking about the big one.
The big one? That was last year. That was 2021. Anyhow, it doesn't matter. But
no, you're right. The because you're talking about the champion wedding. We did wear them for the big gay wedding.
Right, yeah. But not the champion.
And that was the one. That was one where we started talking about this. At that point, it was clear that the mask is not. The masks were never a question of public health. The wearing of the mask was never. Once mask mandates were in place, the wearing of the mask was never about public health. It was always about virtue signaling, and in particular, just like in this picture here, just like a politician showing up a half hour late. This is signaling, I am better than you. Know your place, peasants. and
the half a dinner roll.
And the quarter of a fucking dinner roll. There's the F-bomb. But Alex, you're 100% right. Fuck their salad. Cold piece of chicken.
At the wedding,
look, son, feed your crew. You feed the crew. That's rule number 1.
Yeah, Zaluska worked it with us,
yeah.
and they didn't feed us very well. Everybody else got like roast beef and green beans.
I'd have cut a fool over some of the food on those plates.
I like the people working the event were it was actually the bride. I used the word the bride. Yeah. The bride was like, "No, get you a plate," and I would have.
I would have too, and that was the plan. And that's the plan at everyone. But okay, we're way off topic.
Wait. But then we got handed this tiny brown box, and I knew something was wrong.
It was so wrong.
Okay, but
it was half a cookie. They gave us half a cookie, a quarter of a dinner roll, and a cold salad with a cold piece of chicken and bullshit quinoa.
Yeah, it was like one of those it was like a ramekin of quinoa.
Anyway,
okay, so Stacey
Abrams is evil.
Next governor of
and
Georgia.
Fat.
And a hypocrite.
Totally.
A thing that we did notice though is most of the guests there were at that, and we're talking about a year ago now at the big gay wedding. They were also maskless, right? But it was the thought of the vendors not wearing a mask was somehow offensive, even though in reality it probably would not have been offensive. I'm now at the point where I deal with the public a fair amount in my regular day-to-day job, and honestly, at this point, if I bump into you and you wear a mask, I'm judging you. If I bump into you and you put on a mask before you speak to me, I'm judging you twice as hard. Okay? What's bizarre here is in a sane world, what Stacey Abrams is doing is actually the correct response. We now know that masks are limited in their effectiveness to stop the spread of COVID.
Especially these cloth masks, which the CNN health professionals say are little more than a face decoration. Largely because, especially when you're talking about children are touching the mask, they're playing with it, they're adjusting it all day. They're wearing the same mask for hours and hours and hours at a time. And if you're not washing the mask every time you have worn it for 30 minutes or more in a commercial grade extra hot sterilization washing machine, then they are counterproductive. And that's CDC data that we'll probably get gigged on.
But no, look.
Tim's right. By the way, Tim, it's good to see you in the chat again, brother. We've missed you. I need to talk to you about the Haynes Watershed Project. Tim, we need to get in touch and talk about some stuff.
Anyhow, but like I was saying, the data's in. Masks are limited in their effectiveness with the spread of COVID. So Stacey Abrams not wearing the mask should be a step in the right direction. It's just all these other people also wearing masks. And the fact that there's this whole social thing with it. We've talked before on this show. We now know enough about COVID and how it spreads and all that, where when you see somebody wear a mask, you should be afraid of that person.
Yes, you should assume that person is sick, because there is no good reason to wear a mask unless you are sick, because the only thing per CDC that the mask can possibly do is it can prevent a person who is infected from ejecting droplets, which can spread infection. That's the best you can hope for, is that if a person is sick, that the mask will limit. Basically, you want people to wear a mask because you don't trust them to turn their head and cough.
Well, and look.
So, frankly, if you see somebody that you don't know if they're sick or not, don't run up and squeeze their nuts.
Look, you're wearing a mask. Are you sick? No. I'm just trying to protect you from COVID. Okay. Then why are you wearing a mask? Because I don't want you to get COVID. Okay.
So you're sick.
So you're sick. No, I'm not sick. Then why are you wearing a mask? I swear, it's an Abbott and Costello routine. That's the logic behind it. But no, seriously, if Stacey Abrams...
Third base!
Right. If Stacey Abrams really, really, really wanted to make a splash... Well, okay, all those jokes aside. Wow. I backed into that one.
By the way, you mentioned she only had the mask off long enough to take the picture. More photos surface showing her maskless around kids. Oh, there's up. Oh, in the comments. Okay.
And look, the thing is I don't really care if Stacey Abrams wears a mask, but if she wanted to be the leader, back before I accidentally backed into the joke about making a splash, if she really wanted to be a leader, she would say, hey, look, everybody, take your mask off. It's okay. In fact, ironically, she's probably got more comorbidities than most of the other people in that picture.
Yeah. I mean, she's older than me. She's fatter than me. She's clearly dumber.
So, well, thank you, Stephen Murdoch.
We appreciate you. We appreciate the hell out of you. And you mentioned that there's a good, I don't know, probably 100 of our subscribers have actually been acquired by me in the middle of the night going around and hopping on live streams that are around the same size as our show. And
Making friends.
it's not exactly sub for sub. I'll pop in there and 5 or 10 people who are watching that live stream will pop over and watch ours or catch us in the morning, especially if I happen to do it at balls o'clock shortly before I'm doing show prep or shortly before we go live. So I appreciate that, Stephen. Thanks for watching. And I hope you don't become a dead sub, as in just subbing and just leaving a sub for us. I hope you actually watch the show and enjoy it.
So, the sergeant major is asking if she's going to be nominated for SCOTUS. It would be her sister that's more likely to be nominated for SCOTUS.
Because if there's one thing we know about Stacy, it's that it's her teeth are not as crooked as her sister.
Zing. Okay.
Oh.
No, for whatever reason, the media has adopted Stacey Abrams. It's totally cool to talk about how screwed up Georgia's election process is if you talk about governor's races.
Mm-hmm.
There's never anything wrong with presidential races in Georgia. Only governor's races have got problems with them, okay? Stacey Abrams totally should have beat Brian Kemp, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, totally.
Totally should have beat Brian Kemp. But she went around, she did the media tour, and she played the victim and voter suppression and blah, blah, blah. And, oh, poor me, I was supposed to win, even though I lost by like 50,000 votes. And it's all because somehow Brian Kemp, cheated somehow kind of way that she was never actually able to explain. I don't think she'll be SCOTUS. I don't think she'll get nominated for SCOTUS because there's a lot invested in her becoming the governor of Georgia, right? They want to be able to say that Georgia is a purple state or a blue state. God forbid, please don't let Georgia be a blue state. Don't misunderstand. But they want the narrative to say...
I'm already struggling to stay in this state.
They want the narrative to say that Stacey Abrams is the governor of Georgia, that she defeated the evil racists, and maybe Georgia is headed in the right direction. And if that does happen, I am going to wonder if the deals we made with Hollywood were worth it. I mean,
I can already answer that
They
question.
came here for the tax breaks. Yeah, but at that point, we'll have some really concrete things that we could point to. I remember when they were talking about building an Amazon plant here, and I was like, I don't know that I'm...
Right.
I want the revenue, and I want the people to have the jobs. Jobs are good. Jobs are good. Right? It's like when you pay a minimum of $15 an hour. Hey, awesome. But they were going to move 3,000 or 4,000 people out here.
Yeah, screw that.
And we all know how they're going to vote.
Well, here's what happened. Hollywood moved to Georgia. Hollywood came to Yollywood for the free money and then started demanding that we give other people more free money. We could do a whole show on this because, the whole media establishment. Do yourself a favor. Get you a chuckle. Go look at the white sheets where you can look for jobs in, working on films, and you'll be amazed at how many of them have the just unmitigated temerity to basically say explicitly, straight white men need not apply. It's always seeking list of everything except for straight white men for role, and they'll even say, because we want to get this tax break or that tax break or this special private grant, etc., so we can't hire white men because if we hire straight white men that we don't qualify for this and this. There's some exceptions for disabled veterans, but
Alex says
it's a little tricky.
she took off her mask to celebrate Vernon running for Congress instead of governor. And then he says, have you tried reaching out to Vernon? Mr. Big Shot won't respond to me lately. I think he's pissed over the last interview. The last interview I saw, I don't understand why he'd be pissed.
Yeah, I don't either. It seemed to be very positive. It seemed like a good conversation.
It did seem like a good conversation. He even gave you all a few extra minutes. So
I'll ask my guy on the hill to reach out to him.
Fair enough.
Because he can walk up and tap him on the shoulder.
Yes. Anyhow, Stacey Abrams, you know, the pick. I realized it has nothing.
Yeah, this.
Woo. Okay.
And this is the kind of comedy that we get when there's a video clip randomly cycling under the headline.
Oh, the memetics.
Oh,
the accidental memetics.
Welcome to meme magic, ladies and gentlemen. But let's forget about Stacey Abrams now. Let's move over. I need to go ahead and wrap this up because I got to get over to McDonough. There is. I'm just gonna cycle through a couple of these headlines for you real quick. California students protest mask mandate after seeing photo of unmasked Gavin Newsom. Washington State high school seniors rally hundreds of students to protest mask mandates. We're not backing down. Right? You'll notice a lot of these are blue states.
Blue areas.
Glenview parents protest mask policy at the largest Catholic school in the Chicago Archdiocese. Right? And then this one I pulled up just because Kemp let parents opt students out of masks in Georgia. Now, the following statement is generally true of politicians writ large, but anytime I hear Kemp say something that sounds like the right thing to say, I'm instantly suspicious of him because it's Brian Kemp and his record on being a Republican is shoddy at best. But it does give me some hope to hear Kemp at least say right things.
Governor Abrams.
I mean, we got we got a giant douche and a turd sandwich election coming up on us. What do you want me to do?
But you could not exaggerate the flaws of Brian Kemp.
You're right. You cannot exaggerate his flaws.
Okay, fine. And dig
but-
in, Governor Abrams.
But what we're looking at is across the country, most especially in blue areas where they have not yet lifted the mask mandates in schools, is straight up, people are tired of it. Parents are tired of it. Kids are tired of it.
Everybody's tired of it.
Everybody is sick to death of these mandates. And we didn't even get into any of the trucker stuff today.
I think most of us know in the back of our mind, like, okay, we tried locking down, we tried wearing masks, we tried it, and here we are, 2 years later, and it hadn't worked, and it is not, because for a time, the majority of people stayed home, wore masks, okay, unless you went to Walmart, for some reason that was the exception to the rule, right. But the majority of people stayed home, wore masks, worked from home, kids learned from home, everything from home, wore the mask, blah, blah, blah. Like, the church that I used to go to was a pretty conservative church. The pastor used to quote Ronald Reagan from the pulpit, like, unashamedly, okay? And even they were extremely cautious. You know, there was a several month period where everything was done online. And then when we started coming back to church, like, they literally had social distanced the chairs and asked people to wear masks and all that. Okay. Like, we tried it, and here it is years later, and the lung pow sicken hasn't magically gone away. And so, except for that minority of people that I'm judging if you wear a mask.
Yep.
Like, if you do the thing where you're like, how can I help you?
Yeah, that's probably not the rag you want to put over your face, but
I'm judging you. But except for that 20-25% of people, the rest of us know, okay, look, it's the flu. Okay? It is, it's any other number of diseases It's not going anywhere. Wash your hands. Be careful. If you get a fever, stay home and drink lots of fluids.
Well, and the mandates are going to take a while to go away because, quite simply,
They're too much power.
no, worse. The establishment, especially the Democrats, who have an election coming up that they're going to get trounced in, if they want to say, okay, we can lift all the mandates, everything's okay now, then the question is going to be asked, well, what changed? And they don't have an answer. They can't answer that question.
See, that's bizarre to me because if I were the ones like writing their spin and PR and all that, like in this country alone, something, and this is a guess, YouTube, don't whack us, okay? But I really feel like I heard the other day like 100 million people in this country are fully vaxxed, and some 200 something million have had at least the first shot.
Right.
Well, that's what changed. It's the best vaccine of all time. You can't get COVID,
Right?
Like ever if you
Can't stump the Trump.
But then once you realize how many people have had it, how many people have been exposed to it, like you reach a certain point where the reservoir of people that can get sick shrinks. You could just say, well, here's what changed. It's been a couple of years, and at this point, like, it's actually more difficult for the virus to spread outside of certain circumstances because, people have been vaxxed and people have been sick and people have natural immunity and people have vaccine immunity and all that. Like, and they're not going to do it.
If we get slashed on this episode, I'm going to blame it on you.
Fair enough.
Y'all be safe out there. I got to go to McDonough.